It's a great honor for me to be here, as I think TED is one of the most generous organizations of modern times. And I'm saying this because generosity is a really important virtue, not only for humans, but also in the way organizations operate and impact the world. For example, you can be a doctor and have an amazing impact, but if you're a generous doctor and you volunteer for Doctors Without Borders, then your impact can be even greater. It can be a global brand making telephones, we all know one, that drives technological development and offers thousands of jobs around the world. But if it's a generous global brand and it uses only recycled social plastic to make its products, can you imagine the impact of that brand on the world and people and planet? So I'm here to talk about the importance of finding and following the values and the virtues, and especially that of generosity, in times of emergencies. And I didn't learn this by being an ethical and sustainable fashion advocate for the past 8 years. I learned it through trying to find my own values, working in the darkest side of fashion, what is widely known today as fast fashion. I got into the industry because of my mom. My mom was a really talented fashion designer. And as you can see, and I can still remember myself playing with fabrics at the balcony of her studio. And you can see me at 10 years old trying to make a wedding gown. I'm still not married. That's kind of funny. So that was the moment that led me to go into fashion. Unfortunately, when I was 22, my mother passed away. And this happened very suddenly from leukemia cancer. I was frozen. I didn't talk much, think much, cry much. I think it took me around 6 years to cry properly about my loss. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but it was this kind of feeling that you look normal on the outside, but on the inside, it's someone has frozen all your emotions. So without thinking or crying, I got the first job I could find that just felt right. And that job was not in investment banking and in finance that I studied. It was in fashion. So I started for the first 2-3 years working for fashion magazines, and I was still shocked, don't get me wrong, but I was living in this huge bubble with unlimited consumption. It was weird, but it was nice. But after that, I started working for large-scale fashion productions, mainly made in India, in China, and in Bangladesh. The companies I worked for sold to some of the very well-known big brands. So, on one of my business trips, I had to travel to Yiwu. Yiwu is a small town in China, 2 million people. I don't know how small is that, but anyway. So I had to visit this place in order to supervise an order of 300,000 bags. One design, 2 colors, 80 cents per bag was the cost. It was the first time I was going to China for that reason. Usually we went there for trade shows and we hired other people to do that job. But something got wrong with this order and I just had to go. So I enter the factory and I see something like that, or like that, or like that. She's 14. It's not like I didn't know that these were happening, but it was the first time I was so close to witnessing that. I kind of felt that I was so much part of that. So, with these pictures in my mind, and with the frozen emotions I had, I kind of had a serious frustration inside my head. And I was wondering, who am I? Things about my identity. What are my values? I kind of experienced an awakening. For some reason, everything made sense. My inability to feel vulnerable and generous to myself because of my loss, it kind of deprived me for years of being in touch with my human side. The values and the virtues I knew I had. The work and my choices were actually reflecting what was inside of me. And that was shock, self, insecure, and afraid. But wait a minute. Some of you may say here, fashion is not what you're telling us. It's not just that, right? Fashion is amazing, it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's sexy. You wear something like that, you feel great, right? Yes, it's true. It happens. But something else that is also true is that fashion in the last 30 years has been one of the most, apart from being one of the largest industries in the world, it has been one of the most polluting industries in the world, coming just second after the oil industry. It has been one of the most resource demanding, especially with scarce resources like water. Did you know that it takes 2,000 liters of water to make one t-shirt? Amazing, right? Fashion supply chain is one of the most complex ones, and it hides behind amazing social inequalities and exploitation. And I'm just going to tell you that, and you can imagine it yourself. Low input costs, high profit margins, very short lead times can lead to low wages, poor working conditions, poor safety. This is the way it goes. But fashion doesn't want us to see something like that. Fashion wants us to see what's on the window display, not what hides. So when I think about that, it's kind of an eternal thing about me, but anyway, I kind of think of things like that all the time. But when I think about it, I think of a quote, something that was said by Anna Wintour. She's the chief editor of American Vogue. And she said, "Fashion is a mirror of our times." Wow. And it kind of strikes me, because when I think about it, I think fashion is depressed. Fashion is on crisis of its own identity, its values, its existence. But it's mirroring from a society that it's even worse than that. Due to the economical and political circumstances we're all facing, fashion is fueling from our appetite of instant happiness, from our desire of safety, of feeling safe, of being liked, of being favored, of being retweeted, from our human need, to feel connected. We overconsume to feel happy, but we feel less connected with each other when we're more connected than ever before. So, one reason that people still buy cheap new clothes without even wondering how on earth this shirt costs 6 euros. It's because the fashion industry, the majority of the fashion industry, is not honest and generous enough. And I'm going to show you something. If you went to a shop and you saw something like that, would you buy it? No, I don't think you wouldn't. And you know why? Because most of us are good people. We wouldn't stand seeing, someone suffering to make a pair of jeans or a blouse, right? We wouldn't even help these companies to grow bigger and bigger if we were sure that this was the case. We wouldn't do it. But here's a question. What I'm telling you is not new. I'm sure many of you have Googled and have seen all around the internet and seen videos of slave labor, child labor, rivers in China turning red because an irresponsible factory just dumped his waste there. I'm sure you've all seen it. It's all over the internet. So I kind of struggle with this question. Why don't we do something about it? And the answer I get is that as humans, as consumers, or better, as global citizens, as I would like to call us, we don't know how. We feel numb and we feel shocked, right? We feel like anybody would feel if they were facing something extraordinarily huge. We feel small and we feel insignificant to this massive problem. And we don't believe that if we put our ethical values in front of a purchase, or if we made an educated decision not to buy something, that it would make a difference after all. But let me tell you why this is not the case. And why it is so important, especially in times of such human and ecological crisis that we are right now on this planet, to recognize the power that we all have, the power of choice. So when I was, back in the day, when I was telling you I was looking at all those pictures at the factory, I felt paralyzed. I felt responsible, that unconsciously and mechanically, I was a part of all that. So I quit my job and I took some time volunteering with children in India. But basically trying to decompress and leave out all the pictures I have seen during all my career, and basically trying to leave out all this frustration in my head about who am I, and about what are my values, what is my impact. That was my main question, right? When I got back to London, everything suddenly made sense. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to leave everything behind, and I was going to be an advocate for ethical and sustainable fashion. Within a few months, we launched Generation Generous as a project of bags made ethically, entirely from plastic water bottle waste that helped people in need around the world. We initiated tens of projects that had to do with helping global citizens find out more what they can do, but also a consultancy that helps brands reach out to more and more ethical suppliers around the world, find more sustainable material, and create better products for us. So, next time you are at a shop or somewhere, and you're in front of a choice or a decision, just take a step back and think, do I really need that? Maybe not. Maybe I have 10 shirts, I don't need 11, Maybe. But what is the material? Is it made out of polyester or another nasty petroleum-based fabric? Or is it made for something recycled, upcycled, organic, plant-based? How is it made? Who made it? Does it give me information about its makers? Can I read the story? Can I read what are their skills? Can I find out more? And most importantly, does this brand or this product align with my values? With the values that I have about justice and basic dignity? Does it match my dream of a future world that I want my children to live? Next time you are in front of a pair of jeans or a t-shirt or a bag or whatever, just think that if all of us in this room, on this amazing island in Rhodes, on this country Greece, on this continent Europe, on this planet Earth, we made the same questions every time we bought something, then believe me, we wouldn't change just the clothing industry, but we would be able to define the way that we live on this planet together. So I'm going to leave you with a short story. When I was working in fast fashion, I was in charge of our branch, of one of our branches in Poland. So one of the days I go into the office and a girl comes from the sales team. Her name was Marta. I remember her name very well. She comes to me and she says, Natasha, I really want to talk to you today. I said, okay, Marta, yes, we're going to talk. You can go in my office. And remember, I was really strict back then. So I was like, go to my office now. I don't have time. She goes into my office and she says to me, Natasha, I want to tell you that I want to quit. But I want to quit not because I don't like my job or because I don't like speaking with clients. I love speaking with clients. I love my job. But you know what? I don't like the way sometimes our boss and sometimes you, Natasha, talk to people. And I know you feel it too, and you have it in your mind, and I want to tell you that as woman to woman, where something doesn't feel right, it isn't right, but you can change it. So I came to TED because I believe that many of you understand that in times of crisis and emergency, as humans, we have the privilege to awaken and widen our consciousness. And it's at these times that we need to find the courage to push through, to find and to follow the values and the virtues we all have as human beings. Because we can't think of ourselves as a developed human species, as a species. We can't think of ourselves as a developed species if we do not see a future reality that includes technology, creativity, fashion, entertainment, going hand in hand with humanity, justice, and generosity for people and planet. And for those of you who share the same view as me, I just came here to say to you that If something doesn't feel right, it isn't right. But you can change it. Thank you very much.